All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Claudia Young. I'm the director of the library, and I'm so thrilled to have all of you with us today. I know many of you because you're library users, and we are especially glad to be presenting today here at the library. Natalie Newville is our assistant director, and Natalie and I have given this presentation to many community groups. So we've talked to Rotarians and Lions and Optimists and the Cosmopolitan Club. That's hard to roll off the tongue. And so we know that not everybody belongs to an organization like that. And we certainly wanted to have presentations here at the library. So that's why we're here today. And this is a very special presentation because we have our architectural team, Dake Wells, with us. They're over here to my right in the corner, and we'll talk a little bit more about, yes, hello Dennis, how are you? I've worked here a long time. I've worked here 27 years, and I like knowing so many of you by your names, and it's one of the reasons I enjoy working here because I have connections with so many people. This is a big, important project for our community, and that's another reason why the Dake Wells team is here today. They're going to talk about how we got together and how they have worked with the staff diligently to create this beautiful rendering. And it took time. We've been working together since January of 2021. And we have a relationship because of working together so closely and having so many meetings. You can imagine how many meetings we've had. Before working with Dake Wells, we had so many surveys and got information from community members, from users and non-users of the library, what they wanted to see. So all that information was conveyed to the Dake Wells team. And so Dan, if you would stand up. Dan Maginn is our lead architect, and he has colleagues with him today, Jack and Harrison. And Dan will be presenting after we kind of start this presentation. I know I have a captive audience and I like to talk. So, all right. That's why I have the clicker. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson on the library, just talking about who we are. I know many of you in the room probably remember when we were Thomas Jefferson Library System. Can I see a show of hands? Okay, a few. Okay, well, in 1964, this community voted for a 10-cent increase, and that 10-cent increase built this building that you are in today. And they started it in 1970 and completed it in 74, and there was a grand opening in 75. And believe it or not, they had a contest in 1966 to name the library system Thomas Jefferson, because it was Jefferson City Coal before that. So they had a contest. That's when we became Thomas Jefferson Library System. And then in 1994, we turned into Missouri River Regional Library System. And so that's who we are today. And we're a 2-county system. So we serve Cole and Osage County. Not everybody knows we serve Osage County. Osage County has a branch that looks like a Cracker Barrel. And we bought it in 2019 from the Hostetler family in Osage County, and we tripled their square footage in Osage, and they're very, very happy in Osage with their new branch. We serve the community in a variety of different ways. Obviously here at this building, and we still use our bookmobile. Bookmobile is very popular. We don't use it as much to go out to rural areas as we did at one time. Many of those schools have libraries now, and people aren't available during the middle of the day for a community stop. So we've had to get really creative in how we use the bookmobile. So we go to parks, we do go to some schools, and we also are frequent guests at public schools and private schools for literacy nights. We're a big hit. So we just had to change how we do things, and that's what we do. We adapt. We also have lockers now, and that's a new way to serve people. So when it's convenient for you, hopefully, or when the business is open that we have partnered with. So for instance, we have 36 lockers at the Capitol Mall, and you can request a book either online or you call, and then we deliver it, and then you go to the mall and pick it up. by just swiping your library card, and you can return it there too. We also have a set in Westphalia, and we're going to have a set in Russellville before long. So that's just a really, really short overview of some ways that we serve this community and how we do so.
Okay, I'm going to touch on very quickly our resources. If you're a library user, you may know about a lot of these. We like to touch on them because it helps you go and explain to other people what the library does and the benefit, and maybe you'll learn something that you didn't know before this. Obviously, within the library, we have books. That's a given. This is one of my favorite photos because it's a couple of sisters who we were about to have a snow day the next day. Oh, you're in here? You guys, you're famous. You guys are like our featured thing. I tell this story every presentation. So we were going to have a snow day, so they brought in a suitcase, so they had enough books to read the next day. So this is one of my favorite photos that we use and kind of talk about with that. We also have BookBox. If you've not used it, BookBox is a subscription service. You can fill out either authors you like or don't like or genres. It's for all ages. And then our librarians will put together a bundle of books for you. This is kind of the feather in our cap. Our library developed this, and now there's libraries all over the country who are doing this program. And so we get really excited about BookBox here. We also do a variety of programs with local businesses. This is Red Wheel came and did a bike maintenance class. And then this is when NASA came during the eclipse. So there's a whole variety of programs and events and things that you can come, entertainment options, educational options. It's really important to us that we provide that meet that need in the community. We also have our computer center in the basement. The great thing about the computer center is obviously it has computers. So we have people who go down there and do their taxes. They apply for jobs. They learn new skills with our resources. We also have a printer with affordable printing. So if you're like me, I have a printer at home. I do not have any ink in my printer. And so you can print things here. We also have a 3D printer. What's really great about our 3D printer is it may have things, when I think of a 3D printer, I think of like tchotchkes or like board game pieces. But we have families in our community who have special needs kids, and they print things for their feeding tubes or their wheelchairs, that kind of thing. We also have our one-on-one tech time. So the great thing about that is if you have a device, a phone, a tablet, a computer, something that you don't really know how to use, you can set up a one-on-one tech time with our staff. And we pay them not to roll their eyes at you like your children or grandchildren may do if you're learning something new. So that's a really great service that we offer. And then wherever you are, obviously Claudia already touched on the book lockers. We also have ebooks and audiobooks. It is my mission that everyone cancels their Audible subscriptions because we have the same books and they do not cost you additional. Our bookmobile we kind of touched on, and then our assisted living centers. So with our assisted living centers, we bring materials out to different homes in the community. We also have a homebound program. So we have volunteers who will gather books or materials for people and drop them off at their front door if they're unable to come to the library. And then our digital resources, we have a whole variety of those, and they range from educational, so webinars, job skills, that kind of thing, to learning how to do different crafts, newspaper archives, ancestry. There's a whole variety of great online resources.
Right. I'm going to talk about the impact of the library a little bit. So we are a downtown anchor. When we have talked about leaving the downtown in the past, downtown businesses get kind of nervous. We bring people into this area, and a lot of folks don't know just how many people we bring into downtown. Prior to COVID, over 200,000 people came to visit the library. Now, since then, our numbers have been lower, but in 2022, we still had just over 158,000 people come through our doors. When people say, does anybody use the library anymore? My answer is a resounding yes. In 2022, 455,000 items were checked out. And that's a lot of items. And still, most of those are physical. Just over 100,000 are digital checkouts. The rest are physical checkouts. So every time we ask, do you like digital or physical? People are always quick to say they still love having a book in their hand. Now, I'm going to dive into the ways that we impact the community, especially from a literacy standpoint. So These numbers are all from 2022, and just over 196,000 materials of that 455,000 were youth materials checked out. We had just over 6,700 attend literacy-based programs. So besides story hours, I'm going to give you an example of a literacy-based program that is happening right now and has been going on for many years. We have a Reading Buddies program where we pair a teen and a K through second grade child. And so they work together once a week for 8 weeks in the summer. And it's a great thing for both of those young people, because the child gets helped with that summer slide, keeps up with reading, and they have that connection with an older child. And the teen gets experience working with someone, and our librarians will write references for college applications and for jobs and things. So it's a win-win. We also still, of course, have summer reading. It's going on right now. And librarians, of course, said, why just read in the summer and have summer reading programs? So we have winter reading, and 740 young people participated in those programs. So the way we contribute to the economic vibrancy of this community has to do with that business center that Natalie's talked about, where we've got computers, we've got faxing, we have email, we have very affordable color and black and white. We can scan, we can print things on a 3D printer. So almost 47,000 people use those resources. 16,413 people use the computer center for sessions, and 294 people took advantage of our relatively new notary service. It's completely free and very, very popular. And if I have my way someday, I hope to be able to issue passports here, because I know it's hard to get at the post office with their limited hours, but that's something that a lot of libraries are doing now, and it's a down the road sort of thing. But notary's really taken off in a big way. So the library also contributes to the social fabric of this community, and we do so by having these wonderful programs. And the look of programming has changed a lot, especially in the 27 years that I've worked here. We used to just have speakers, some book clubs, and children's programs. But we have craft programs and DIY programs, and sometimes we have programs outside of the library. And we had some culinary classes, and so lots of unique and creative things that people don't always expect to see in libraries. But we do that, and it draws people in, and that's really important. We have a lot of community groups meet here, and we also partner around town. So we don't just say we partner, we follow that through with action. We show up, we work with schools, we work with Parks and Rec. We go where we are invited. So for instance, we've been to Kids Fest, we were at Juneteenth, we'll be at Munichburg. We are a local partner in education, and we've even won that award a couple of times. And so if we're asked, we go. Natalie and I both serve on many associations here in town, and we're a voice for this library, and we participate, and we are active members in this community because it's important to us that the library has a seat at the table, and we go and we're part of this community in a big way, and you see us. So Dan, yes. And Dan is now going to take over and give an in-depth presentation about everything that went into the design that we're proposing.
Jack was mentioning it feels a little bit like we're altar servers over there. See how this affects. But we're really happy to be here today to talk a little bit, show you some stuff, show you how we got here, but also to listen to you all. So we just think this is a really special place, and it's just an honor to be talking to you all. And buildings are, that's why we're architects, we do buildings, but buildings are just tools. It's all about what goes into all the events and activities that go into a building. And that's where you all come in. So this is for you all. And then it's just so exciting to work with Claudia and Natalie and their group, because they're just so spirited and dedicated, and the heart of this place is just amazing. So we're very excited to be here. Mentioned it, this is a very special place, and we've noticed that, I can say now, for years. January 2021. We started kind of scoping this project in late 2020, and we really wanted it. Like we're out of the Kansas City office at Dake Wells. We love to work on public projects. I've been practicing about 30, 40 years now. I just love this kind of project where it really makes a difference for a community. It's kind of cool to design houses and stuff like that, but to work on a project that really is a positive part of people's lives is really why I started off in this profession. So we're excited, but we just kind of noticed how much heart, as we were kind of interviewing for the project, how much heart the place has, and that we wanted to build on that, build on what's working so well, but also help you create something that's maybe a bit warmer and more inviting and more accessible, more efficient, more connected to the community, and more flexible as the needs and uses of the library kind of change into the future. So brought back a couple slides all the way back from our interview years ago. We talked about balancing two things, the practical and the possible. So we actually found the old blueprints from the original building, which is just always fun to review those. So at the core of this project, the practical issues that must be addressed that's just before we do anything else with regard to innovative and inspired new spaces, we've got to fix what's broken. So we know that there are issues. Building's done a great job for the last 53 years, but we have ADA issues, accessibility issues with elevators, restrooms, stacks. The stairs, as you know, are very cramped, especially if two people are trying to pass each other on the stairs. Electrical issues, circulation and back of house issues with regard to how materials are checked out and logged. Security issues, how do you balance that kind of sense of park-like setting with an openness with a level of security, especially on the exterior. Structural capacity, back in the day when this was first designed, the goal was that there was a third level, and there just wasn't the funding at the time to actually pull that off. But that was 50 plus years ago, and we need today's engineers to then go back and make sure that it could actually handle the load of a third level. Acoustics are important, window systems, plumbing. So all these practical issues are at the heart of the project. We always do project imperatives for every project we work on. That is, after listening to the community and listening to staff, what are the key things that we have to take care of for this to be a successful project? And Claudia and Natalie could kind of attest that this slide shows up in every presentation we give. It's always something as we come up with our designs and we're kind of in our world and thinking all these creative thoughts. We always have this as a check, just to make sure we're not forgetting those first conversations that you have. So I won't read all these words, although this is a word crowd, but address immediate practical issues I already mentioned, programmatic needs. So, really dig deep on what's needed now programmatically and try to stretch into the future. What could be needed and useful in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Long-term vision. Be welcoming, creating spaces that are warmer, more inviting, and that encourage a variety of user experiences for the community. Be transformative, a building that can kind of shift and adapt day to day, week to week, and also day to night. I think it's of interest to the library to have some evening events, and how can the library kind of transform so that at night it turns into a safe, exciting place. Dream big. I think Claudia's very good at that. And Natalie, listen to the site, listen to the, what's going on, the relationship with the street, and how can the building really reinforce the site, the great walkable site patterns that are already happening. Think legacy. This is kind of an interesting one. We always say that architecture is a conversation between generations. So listen to what the building was saying 50 years ago and what it's saying now, contribute to the dialogue moving forward. So the building is definitely of an era. This is, having worked on similar buildings, this kind of feels like a 1972 building. It was kind of the style of that time. There's a lot of good in this. It's a very solid building, and in its solidity, you can kind of hear what the architect and the community was saying 50 years ago about what was important. We pay attention to that, and then that really helps us understand what do we want to say, this room as a community, and the architecture group and the staff. What do we want to say so that 50 years from now, people look back and they said, I'm glad in 2023, 2024, this community really thought about this project as a continuum. So, it's kind of a 50 years ago, the building was built. Here we are today. What's it look like 50 years from now? So it's exciting to be part of that continuum. Think legacy, embrace empathy, promote sustainability, and use funding wisely. So design in a way that has the biggest impact for the money spent. So we'll talk about some ideas. We'll kind of show you a lot of stuff. I know you'll have questions, and so it might make sense if it's okay with you all. We'll kind of get through it, and then we can always back up and hit actual slides and talk about where's the front door, what's that room again, that kind of thing. So we'll kind of get through the possible here. What's the vision that makes this place even more vibrant and useful? And we thought about a lot of design concepts. We thought about the idea of connections on many scales. Makes a lot of sense for a library, I think. Seen this slide before, but we love that how the library provides a bookend to a very walkable corridor on High Street. Our thought was to maintain that connectivity and keep the vibe of a park setting, but just make it a bit more secure. Thinking about the material, scale, and space of the library now, we kind of see 4 elements at play as you just kind of look at this snapshot. Looking right at the library, you can kind of see 4 things kind of come to the forefront: concrete, masonry, glass, and then landscape plantings, which are a huge part of the existing library right now. Just being honest about the overall feel, look and feel. Right now, those 4 elements kind of come together with a sense of heaviness. And again, I don't think that's a mistake. I think that's what 50 years ago they were trying for. They really wanted this to be a solid building that was all about stability, gravitas. And, you can count on this place being here for a while. That was just the way it was back in the day. This heaviness kind of finds its way inside with just a lot of great things are happening, but it definitely has that sense of right where the exterior wall is, and it feels a little heavy. So again, we're dealing with word people here, and we like words too. So we kind of polled the staff about words that came to mind that were sort of like, what are the challenges of this project, about the existing conditions? And this is an important line, the library is performing admirably in spite of the facility being cramped, not very flexible, not very accessible. It doesn't feel intuitive to you all are used to coming, but to new visitors, it might not feel very intuitive and welcoming. There are some issues with security as regards the kind of front area and exterior spaces. Feels a little dark, feels a little siloed, might not be as convenient as possible. Feels dated, heavy, static, disconnected. So those are all kind of bummer words that we were trying to figure out how can we improve on that. But just getting it out on the table, like this is the feeling that we think we can improve on. And so we thought, let's come up with 3 words that are in counter to those words that we will always keep in mind almost as a lens as we look at different ideas to just be able to check whether or not we're doing our job. So the goal was trying to come up with a reimagined library that's intuitive, that feels convenient and flexible, a well-used tool for staff, patrons, and the community. A library that is welcoming, one that's accessible and connected, a place that beckons to the community, and a library that's vibrant, one that's transformative and dynamic, a hub of information and elevated experience. So again, the challenge, what can we do to what we currently have without reinventing the wheel to kind of take what we currently have of concrete, masonry, glass, and landscape plantings. How do you shift that palette of materials to be not heavy, but light? So this is the concept that it took us a long time. If you could see the number of iterations and presentations we had to get to this point, which is a sign of a healthy process. a lot of feedback and back and forth to try to create, again, something that felt solid. Still, we were listening to what they were saying 50 years ago. This should be an anchor of the community. It should feel solid, but there's no reason it can't feel light as well. So, you know, what is the community asking for? Connecting the building to your needs and desires, and that's at the heart of it. That's the first thing I said today, and it's possibly the most important. You know, what are you asking for? One of the things we heard first and foremost is whatever you do, maintain that inviting, community-oriented vibe that exists now. That's the thing we initially picked up on our first visit that made us think we really want to work for these people, because it just feels like such a special place. And I think that's a testament to you know, the interactivity that Claudia has, for instance, kind of overseeing the ship, but also being able to hit the information desk and the circulation desk at times. And it's just in her heart that this place serves the community. So whatever we do, don't invent some new way of thinking about the library that's foreign to the DNA of this place. Create spaces for all age groups. I found it in my notes, make it the place to be for any and all. So someone had mentioned that, like, whether or not you're 6, 16, 26, 66, 56, make it that it feels like there's a place in the library that's just for you. So if you're a teen, we want it to be that you don't feel like you're going to this place where all the young kids are and all the old people are. There's a cool teen place that is just for you. Eventually you're kind of age out of that and then find, like, I don't want to hang out with the teens anymore. But there's a cool place for young families. So we're just trying to think, you know, trying to use empathy to think about the different user groups and what can we do to really connect and create spaces that just happen to appeal to that group. Community gathering spaces for different size groups, including private study groups and quiet spaces. So depending on personality types, some of us love to be part of a big group, some part of a conversational group, or if you're kind of like us, insular architects, you might want to be in a space with people, but you want to be in a private area and just kind of be in your own world and have a sense that you can go to a little nook and find a book or be on your laptop and just be able to almost connect with yourself, but in a group setting. Secure outdoor gathering spaces, thinking about, you know, how the sun starts in the east, goes up in the south, sets in the west on this really special site. How can we create a mix of sunny and shady spaces that kind of would shift as morning turns to evening and fall turns to summer? Create maker spaces and other innovation lab type spaces. Think about technology and workforce training and business incubator spaces, expanded outreach services. And then, you know, the first practical issue, improved infrastructure, the elevators, restrooms, stairs, etc. And whatever we do, don't forget books. Thinking of the future of libraries, you'll often hear architects talk about how books aren't that important anymore and it's all about the future. But I personally think a book is a really relevant invention, and I love the feel of a book. I have digital books as well, but also there are times I really love just the physical book. And being able to go to a library in an analog setting and walk around and find a physical book, there's something special. So don't forget that, architects. We also pulled the staff after we had already started a program and figure out what this library was about, to just do a check. And we did it's called a dot survey, where the staff members all had 4 dots to spend in various areas. So we heard back from them, and this actually confirmed our programming thoughts, but it also set us off in a new direction or two with regard especially to like the innovation lab spaces and workforce kind of spaces. This is just thought we would kind of take you behind the scenes a little bit. After we do a building program, that's a list of all the spaces using words and square footages. We often do this diagram, which is called adjacency diagram. That takes all of the spaces in these little colorful blocks of space. It's like a logic diagram, computer or something. That's roughly the size of the spaces and what needs to be next to what, and then what are the different types of spaces that come together. So kid spaces, teen spaces, administrative spaces. How does the whole thing work? So this is a really exciting diagram because it's the last thing we do before we start drawing lines on paper. Also shown this to a contractor that once said, I could build that. Like, he was like, I don't know why you need to spend all the money to keep doing your plans. Like, I think I can pretty much build that. So we didn't listen. So we're going to go ahead and Jack's going to come up and talk a little bit about what you have now. And sometimes it's really hard. We've been living with this for years. So it's really hard sometimes as a community to come in cold to understand. I understand what's here now, but like, what are you proposing and how does it kind of translate to what I currently know as my library, my Adams Street, my High Street, my parking situation? What might that future vision be? So you'll kind of see, Jack will talk about how we'll reference back to this magic dashed orange line, which can kind of help you reference what's here now. So you can kind of see in the future. I'm taking all your talking points.
Does this have a pointer?
I don't know.
I got it.
Okay. Yeah, you'll be able to see, I see the new plan with all the new stuff, but I can still see that orange square to help orient myself. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll kind of try to translate everything we just talked about and how it's kind of led to these plans and how it shows up. So this is the existing library. So the entry is here.
High Street.
Yeah, so this is High Street. This is Adams Street. Look, okay. So existing building here, this is the new footprint. So we're reaching out from the existing building out to the community with easily accessible, secure entries on each corner. And then this bar here, which is public, plenty of space to come in and access any activities throughout the building.
One more slide further to get the actual.
Oh,
yeah. So now,
thank you.
Now the orange square goes.
much
And we're just
easier
going to
to see.
jazz combo this a little bit if that's all right.
Yeah. And then on Adams Street, some staff space. So now the staff can all be together. They're going to be able to serve you a lot better doing that.
It's okay. We talk over each other.
Absolutely.
So this is the current Adams Street. Here's the current entrance. Here's the top of the hill. So the ADA entrance is right there. So ADA and the ADA is now the sidewalk is still up high. You never have to go back down, but you just kind of go over that way. So instead of going that way.
Yeah, and we'll show you this plan here, which is from working with our landscape architect. So yeah, now you can access through here. Along the street, there's this nice landscape buffer with planters. So still maintaining some nice green space in front of the building. And really, when you're approaching the building, you'll feel welcomed. You'll feel like you are already kind of in the library and easily come in. There's a space up here for art, for outdoor programming.
It's giant chiming again.
Yeah.
So one thing we heard was some of the community saying like, we love the park, don't lose the park. And then we also would hear other members of the community saying, do something about the park because there's some issues with the park. So what it's part of our job to take concerns and goals and figure out what's the path forward that might address the underlying issues in both cases. So what we kind of ended up hearing was the idea of keep the idea of exterior space, and just make it secure and controlled. So there are definitely places where you could kind of hang out for short term, just meeting a friend, or you just want to read outside on the ground level. It's really not designed to be a place where you're going to camp out. Like I'm just going to hang out there all day and let the world go by. We do want to encourage you to go into the library because there are plenty of places that Jack will talk about in a second on the green roof area, the kind of elevated area that has kind of landscape elements and shady spots. But just come on into the library and it's a secure environment rather than this kind of passive environment. So instead of a kind of this bookend of the Capitol down to the library, the two bookends, the Capitol and library that happens to be in a park, we're kind of thinking of it as there is a library that has its own little exterior spots, or little small park-like areas.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
we want to
we,
go back.
Can you guys scoot to the podium that way, the microphone and the camera?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, so we want to amplify all of those existing positive things and make them available to everyone and comfortable and welcoming.
So do we want to go over this just real quick about, so we have a little color key here. The kind of slate color spaces are the entry lobby space. So that's this new addition along High. And think of that as like a place where you could go, periodicals are there. There would be a retail kind of opportunity where certain things could be for sale. A kind of a year-long book sale could kind of be happening up here. Place where you could just have a lounge chair or bring your laptop, again, coffee, and then that's just kind of a flexible space that almost is a type of gallery space. So would be flexible, programmable. 2 years from now, 5 years from now, it could be that it's totally used in a way we're not expecting. The centralized circulation desk, so that's the big info center, has good views to the doorways and kind of it's the hub that lets you know where to go. This whole kind of paint area is the circulation and back of house, sorting books, checking books, that then ties into the lower level through the stair and the back elevator. New elevator, really large elevator to get you to all levels, and a new kind of feature stair that ends up being an element that will bring light all the way in. Administration is actually on the library site instead of at a different building. So Claudia and her group having really good visibility to the front of the house. You'll see community rooms show up on a different level, but there is one nice community room that would be available for groups to meet right there on the lower level. General stacks are kind of the olive drab color. So that's kind of adult stuff. Some computer stations actually on this level. So nice visibility to all the people on computers, as well as the printing area. So if people have questions about, I can get this to work, they're right close. So you can really see that the circulation desk is kind of the hub of it. And then really importantly, aside from places to hang out by yourself, meet with your friends, there's also, you know, 1 or 2 people can go on all these different study rooms. So that's a chance you get, it might be that you go thinking you're gonna be in a lounge chair, but someone else is in a lounge chair right next to you and they're talking kind of loud. So maybe you find a way to a more private area. So it just gives you those different opportunities to embrace what's happening that day. It might be a nicer day than you thought and you wind up on the exterior level upstairs. So
yeah, we see a lot of good things here: visibility, convenience, all the way to still having those quieter study spaces and reading spaces. So yeah, this is the first floor with the landscape surrounding it. And then on up to the second level. So orange is the existing again. And now you can see we've taken that green space, lifted it up. And now it's a public green space, outdoors, accessible to the public, but also secure, and a place you can take books, materials, read, and then, whoops. So on this level, we have a lot of community space. There's a community gallery along here, comfortable seating space, and room to showcase art from the community, exhibits. The red, again, this is a large community room that can be divided into two. And then it has an easy, accessible kitchen here. So you could imagine an event like this taking place there. Earlier today, yoga. This would be a great space for that. Lots of natural light. And these open out onto these outdoor terraces. So a lot of opportunity there for programming. And then the purple is adult tech. We talked about the 3D printing, teaching those skills, classes, computers here, learning specialized software, lots of opportunities there, and a meeting space. Dan, do you have anything to add on this level?
No, you can really, I guess, yes. But you can kind of get, again, that sense of one person, 2 people, 5 people, 20 people or more. Trying to think of it being completely flexible to meet those needs so that, again, it's the place to be. We've kind of thought about this image that you might be aware of, for instance, kind of thought about it as front porch in a way. So if you're up a level, you're secure, you're shaded, and you're able to find this great outdoor space, but also the gallery space. It's kind of like that sunroom in your house that might be right behind the front porch. So we think that too could be used in different ways, where small groups could meet. Again, Black History Month, it could have a shifting kind of display that could happen. It could be that there's also a certain type of new releases could be featured up there. So a lot of flexibility, and again, really embracing a lot of different community meeting ways, including, you could have just on this level 4 different types of meetings happening at the same time. Next slide is more of a landscape base.
Yeah, so you can see here how those rooms open out onto the terrace, providing a spectrum of space for individuals or groups, like Dan said, and shaded space where you can be in the sun if you want to, and then really taking advantage of these nice views out to the city, which now I was actually walking around the library today, kind of pulling back some of the Venetian blinds and looking and taking photos of those. And it's going to be really nice to be able to sit and experience that.
So yeah, in architecture, we talked a lot about in-between spaces. So there are rooms like we're in now, and sometimes there are terraces. It's kind of trying to find these opportunities of kind of spaces that are in between other spaces. So having the entranceway be shaded, sheltered by part of the building coming out. All of these are kind of clues that for you all, it might not be an issue because you're used to coming into the library. But there might be an audience, potential library patrons, that has maybe always felt nervous about going in for the first time. So how can you reach out a little bit to invite exploration? You actually see people mingling up there. You're walking by, driving by. It might be a sign of like, I see they're doing things I didn't realize happened. Fun things I didn't realize happened in the library. So again, trying to expand that patron base.
Yeah. So this is the additional level on the 3rd floor, existing footprint there. And this is what it looks like. And this is a good example of what Dan was talking about, I think. As the library grows, some spaces end up in places that aren't ideal. So this footprint really helps, and it's putting children's and teens in a place that's really easy to get to. You can easily come up the stairs and engage in activities up here. And then it's all visible from front desk as well, to help serve those areas. So yeah, there's a story time room here that can be used by both, maker space for that age group as well. Children's up here with kind of sparse stacks and lots of space to sit and read or play. Same in the teens area, but enclosed kind of space, hangout zone with tech and everything.
And I think you can make we faded the green roof, so that's not available on this level. That's one level down, just so you can get a sense. But you know, in our minds, we would love it if the kids are looking out the window, if they're looking down the cool atrium and seeing that green roof space and wanting to take mom and dad out there to have a little.
Question, it's the green roof area, is it partly roofed or is it open to the air?
Yeah, you can kind of see there. It's all open to the air, but
Shade.
there is a significant part that does have an overhang.
Okay.
Yeah, so the existing building is kind of here. And this is that second level.
So we would kind of see people on a day like today, probably all bets are off. But, you know, a week ago or something, north is pretty much like catty corner there. So you can kind of see the sun coming up. Sometimes even in the summer, like people want to get out and get, you know, a little bit of sun. So on the east side, but even then you'd have quite a bit of shade happening on the west side. And then as the sun kind of marches around, it goes all the way to the west. I could, having worked on many other projects, you just see folks kind of following the shade a little bit. Although on certain, you know, on fall days, they might follow the sun and try to get out into the sun. So again, it's a little bit of a, it's an important space. It is kind of a passive space, but we think it's one of those spaces that really adds a level of life and exterior connection and kind of place, it's called placemaking. You know, you're trying to, again, connect to that corridor and just make it so that people realize that's not what I thought a library was. And I think I want to participate in what that is.
Yeah, so I would just echo what Dan said. Our hearts are really in this and creating a library for everyone that's has a civic presence and it's worthy of kind of being on this corridor in a beautiful downtown, along with the Capitol building as another bookend.
Yeah, and we're trying to pick up on the existing material. So that's the tan brick you see is the same brick color that is on the library. On the other two sides, you'd actually see part of the existing structure remain, the concrete. Then we would introduce a brick tone that's one tone darker as well. And then by introducing these 5 pilasters, again, that's not in the original design, but it's kind of in the spirit of that kind of, that the place has some gravitas to it. It's a public building. So we're trying to like walk that line between a public traditionally scaled building that might have kind of columns on the front and more of a modern building that has these interior exterior connections. That was our goal. And then we have a few more shots here, and then I think turn it over to you. We've been talking a little too long, but and then we're available for any questions that can back up. Does that sound good? We'll keep talking. You guys talk, and then we can go back.
Other questions at the
Have
end. Yep.
questions go all the way back. You kind of see this. This is kind of an interesting viewpoint where you can see how the stair kind of goes up, attaches to the existing building, goes all the way up, and then lets light all the way down. Again.
This is a section that cuts through the building. So you can see that relationship that Dan talked about with the stair moving you up to every floor, really easy to navigate and find your way. So all the way up to the youth activities on the top level, innovation lab and community spaces and green roof on the second floor. And then general stacks on the first floor, support in the basement.
We'll shift back over to the altar server area.
Thank you.
All right, well, this is a $28.5 million project, and it adds just over 22,000 square feet to this building, and of course, completely renovates it as well. And so Proposition Library is a ballot initiative that will be on the August 8th ballot. And it is asking for Cole County citizens to increase the current 20-cent levy per $100 of assessed valuation to 35 cents, so a 15-cent increase. Overall, we feel like this is a fairly modest amount, and the potential to do really great things is there. And to set up the library for the next 50 years is very, very, very important to us. In 1964, as I mentioned earlier, that's when the last levy was voted on by Cole County citizens, and it has taken us to 2023, so 59 years later. This is just a one vote situation. People have asked us if this is a sunset, if there's a bond and an operational levy. It isn't, it's just one operational levy. So it's a certificate of participation rather than a normal bond that we often hear about, especially with school issues. So it'll take between 20 and 30 years to pay this off. And then, of course, at that point in time, we know the future is expensive. And so just like in 1964, our hope is that it will carry us for almost another 60 years. So we have some ballot language. Everybody wants to know how much this is going to cost, how it's going to affect their wallet. So we've got this information on the sheets that were on your chairs. It's on our website. And we try to break it down in a really digestible way. And so, for instance, I'm just going to choose the home value of $250,000. There'll be an additional yearly cost of $71.25. And if you break it down a little further, it's $5.94 a month. I did the calculations for my own home, and the calculations I think are on the next slide. How to do
I took them
this.
out of this to shorten it, but it is on
Okay.
our website. So
Yes.
if you want to figure your own.
Yeah, there's a very specific way to do it. And so for my home, it'll be an $86 increase a year.
So as we've done these presentations, we get some frequently asked questions. One of them is, how long are we going to be closed? Assuming this passes in August, we would move out in May. Construction would start next summer. And then the library would be closed for about 2 years. So that's kind of our plan. Where are we going to go? We do not know yet. So obviously, if you have picked up a box of books anytime, you know books are very heavy. And so there are a lot of special qualifications when you pick a building for a library. And so we're working with some landlords and some realtors in our community to identify some places. But the most important thing is we will be open somewhere. We will still have services. We won't be closed for 2 years. That was, some people had kind of asked that or assumed that we would be closed for a couple of years, and that is not the case. And so we also plan on doing more outreach and sending the bookmobile out, that kind of thing, doing programs off-site so that we can continue to serve the community. What about parking? Parking is always a concern in downtown. And so we are trying to work with the city and the county to identify some parking solutions. I always like to encourage people, if you think that downtown parking is a struggle, please reach out to your elected officials because they are the ones that kind of identify and designate parking and that kind of thing. So it's important that they know that there are concerns in the area, but we understand that it's an issue and we're trying to work with them as we kind of go down this route. But it was very important to our community as we did all these surveys and conversations and this kind of stuff. People really wanted us to stay downtown. So it was important that we figure out a way to make that happen. What happens if it doesn't pass? On the sheet that we handed out, there's 2 blocks, one that says what happens if it passes, one that says what happens if it doesn't pass. So I encourage you to look over those and kind of digest them, and we're happy to answer questions if you think of them about it, but we tried to lay it all out in those sheets for nicely. There's more information on our website. The link is also on that sheet. And if you have another group that you would like Claudia and I to come talk to, we would love to. We've hit about 20 groups so far. We got about 10 more until August 8th. So if there's a group that you can think of, we'd love to come and talk to them. But now I think we can open it up to some
It's
questions
your turn.
for us or the architects.
Sunday. Yes.
I can see kind of, it looks like a small window on the third floor. I was kind of curious what the outdoor lighting was on the third floor.
The windows on the third floor?
Yeah,
So yeah, we were thinking of maybe on the plan, keep going backwards. Yeah, so it would be kind of expanding, kind of in the kids area, it would be a large window, story time room, large window. The kids area has a big one whole bay of the building.
similar to the
Yeah,
side.
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
And then this this is north, but like this face, it's just a lot of shaded, clear free daylight.
it's a continuation of the large window.
Yeah.
that's in the first both floors.
Yeah, so I think the window you're seeing there is kind of into the teens.
Right, okay, I just couldn't tell what the back was.
In the blue white shirt.
Talk about versus accessibility. Mention both of those things. I know that we all know that there's a bit of a problem with lighting. And everyone's welcome,
That's right.
so what was the solution?
Yeah, our policy is as long as people are following the rules, they're welcome to be here. And so that is how our staff really handles different people who are here. It's always funny, even internally with staff, we talk about loitering, which is the library encourages loitering, right? Like that's the whole point, is we want people here and to hang out and to be here. And so we work really hard with staff on enforcing positive behaviors and that kind of thing. We do think that the day shelter that's supposed to be opening up soon will also help with some of that. So, when we talk about people who are experiencing homelessness, it's a huge community issue, and the library is just at the forefront of it. And so we've been really lucky to work with a lot of community groups who, as we have spoken out and said, hey, this is becoming a bigger problem. And then they've found lockers for people, and this day shelter's hopefully opening up soon. So that's kind of how we handle it.
Staff serve on
The outside spaces.
And that's why we moved the green space up to that second floor so that we can access it, and there's less space to just hang out in the new building than there is right now in our current building on the main floor where we can't control it.
Can I piggyback off of that? Because that's why I came today. And I know you mentioned in that project imperatives and the connection screen, and you talked about the safety out front. But, when you come in to the main area, will there be a spot for them? I don't know about this day shelter that you're talking about, but, I was in earlier this week, and I don't come in unless I'm picking up a book, because there's no place to sit, because people have, I know it's open to everyone, but unfortunately it's kind of shying other people from coming in, because there's no places to sit, because they're all taken up by people that are there for the day.
Yeah, so the day shelter, one of the churches is opening up a day shelter. And so it will be a space for people who are experiencing homeless to go. They'll have access to resources, showers, laundry. It'll be a place for them to hang out, that kind of thing. So that will help with that. There is, in the new building, there's more seating for everyone. But as library staff, we recognize that that's a concern, and we've been trying to figure out the best way to navigate it so that everyone feels welcome. And it's a challenge, for sure.
It is a challenge. And staff's been an integral part of some of these things that are on the horizon. We have at least 4 staff members that serve on the homelessness task force and the unhoused solutions meeting that happens once a month on Thursday nights at the Episcopal Church. I go, and I've talked about some of the ways that things are negatively impacting the library and how we need assistance from other groups. And when we talk about these things at meetings, there have been changes that have occurred. For instance, we had so many people with belongings, personal belongings this winter, and we were overwhelmed, absolutely overwhelmed by them. And when I went to one of the Unhoused Solutions Committee meetings, I conveyed that. And 3 downtown churches joined forces and they bought large lockers, and they're over in the Methodist church. And so now those large items that were taking up space on the first floor will be working with people to get them over to the Methodist church. I think they'll have more lockers at the new day shelter as well. But, you know, we've been a voice for this community, and we know, we have a limited ability, we're librarians, and we're welcoming and we're great, but we have limitations. And so we like to focus on what we can do library wise for this group of people. And they use many of our resources, but they do need other services. And so I'm proud that the staff has helped them by being a voice for them. And I think, and of course, our community is great. You know, how generous our community is and how much they do for people. And the Christian church turning their preschool into a day shelter is just another example of our community's generosity. But we are trying to balance these things, and we recognize that the library needs to be an enjoyable place for everyone. And that we don't want people not coming here because they're not comfortable. And we are thinking about that all the time. And I hope you have seen some changes in the last 6 months, because we have been trying to balance this a little bit better. And we've changed furniture around. Doesn't mean that the furniture isn't full, but we have, we've changed things around and made decisions that I think have caused some change, have been a catalyst for some change, but we've got a long ways to go. Yes.
You mentioned, or Natalie mentioned, that this will be up for vote in August. Is that a more general election? Will there be other issues?
There's no other issues. I voted Tuesday.
It's a special election,
Special election for
unless
this
you
season?
live in Wardsville.
Yeah.
So if you're a Wardsville address, there's one more issue on that ballot. But
Just city.
the rest of Cole County, it's just the library.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that even with these changes, other places like the day shelters and so on, the library will continue to be available for heating and cooling.
Yes, we
I'm
are
assuming
an
that will
official
continue.
heating and cooling center.
Right.
That is right.
Right, and that will continue,
It
yes?
sure will. Yes.
I mean, that's needed.
This is more space. Will you be getting more employees?
Yes. At least I think we have 7 on the on our list of things we need. And of course, it accounts for all the technology, all the things that go in the building. And yes, we need more people. We also intend to serve the rest of Cole County, the rural Cole County area better. We always have with our bookmobile service, but that doesn't work for everyone. And we're trying new things, getting creative with that. And so, yes, there'll be more money for more services,
That's part of
yes.
it.
And, Natalie keeps saying she wants everybody to cancel their Audible. And I'm always like, wait a minute, Natalie, because that costs a lot of money to run those services. And people are saying, if I vote for this, will there be more money directed towards digital services? Because, for instance, Hoopla, how many of you use Hoopla? Okay, it's 6 downloads a month. And you know that if we run out of money for the day, you can't get another book, even if you haven't used all 6. There's about $44,000 funneled into Hoopla. And it's so popular, and we need more money to satisfy the demand. Libby is another service. We have a filming service called Canopy, and there are other things available that we don't have. But yes, that all takes money, and this will generate more revenue for those services that you all love so much. Yeah, there's.
Are you doing those mock-ups online for the interior?
Yes, we have those. They'll be going out via email, and they'll also be on our website.
Yes.
So on the slide that shows the orange line, the existing building, is the big square, is that the library property? I wanted to know where the library property line was in relation to.
Oh, if you go to the site plan.
This one?
Sorry, maybe the next one. I think the site plan is in red there.
Okay,
Okay, so.
So the parking on the side of the building is outside of that red area, because it's part of the city, I'm assuming. On the, yeah,
No.
on that side right here,
that
the
is,
alleyway parking, I'm assuming that's outside the
That,
library.
this part, it's right here where the screen thing is, that is we own that parking.
so that will go away then under this.
So that was.
No,
No, it'll
that parking down there will remain.
Oh, okay, because of the green, I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah, all this will be parking.
Okay, so the existing parking in the alleys. will
Correct.
remain.
Yes, and we are looking at something that's come up as we've done a lot of these is with the entrances being over here. We'll need to work with the city to get some handicap spots up here on High Street, which they're usually good with working with that since the entrance is getting shifted.
What is to the west and on the northwest side corner there?
Up here,
Yeah. No,
That
Next over.
that squiggle there, that was.
right there.
oh, right here,
Yeah,
that's our staff parking and this is our garage where our bookmobile and
Okay.
library vehicles
Okay,
go.
so that's staff parking. there.
This is
Yeah,
the,
okay.
this is the curb cut. for the driveway.
Okay.
I know there's some people with children in the room, and we had a few children this morning at our 8 a.m. session. And I think it's really important to communicate to you parents and children that I want to work with staff and architects to create a really magical place for youth. I go to libraries everywhere I visit. I've gone to so many where, they have trees and, animals and themes and so many neat educational things that are even like maybe on the wall. And so we, when you look at it up here, I know it's just different colors and blocks and things, but I'm a parent, my kids are much older now, but I want that kind of magical experience for young families when they come in, that, it's someplace that they're asking you to go all the time, not just, yes, for reading materials and all those things, but because it captivates them and makes them want to be in that space. So it's really important to me that we do that in the youth department, that it looks very, very different than it is now. And I really like the trees. So yes, I'll have a lot to say about that. And people have asked that, what will it look like? And I know, we don't have a theme picked out yet or anything like that, but it's going to be special because I want it to be.
Great. Thank you guys so much for coming. We really appreciate it. We recorded today, so we are going to put this up on YouTube and our website. So if there's people that you think would be interested in this, the link will go out via email and it'll be on our channel. So we really appreciate you all taking time.
Yeah, your time and attention means a lot to us, your support. Just being here and being interested.
Thank you.
Thanks.